Welcome back everyone to Gotcha Interact. Today we're going to be talking about the developers discussion that has just released recently, looking over at kind of that idea with kind of what's been going on there. Overall, looking at everything that we can see from the developer discussion. It did release earlier today. Overall, for us at least, technically it was today, maybe technically last night for some other people. But overall, we're seeing a lot of things. Initially, we see the artifact autolock feature. We now have an upgrade to that, some little changes, as well as the big thing that we were talking about in a previous video, which was the increased just damage that you'll see from certain elemental reactions. So let's go ahead and jump right into the first thing, which we see is the treasure compass. You can discover even more chest locations. Honestly, this is a great thing for me, especially I know a lot of people, they try to do their own way, or maybe when the world first comes out, it's very difficult to 100% easily and consistently without having the map up. And if the map isn't updated or whatever, you're kind of running into the world kind of blind. And this is a little bit of a way to kind of get to those a little bit easier. Especially since you can see the time trial challenges and Sealy, who normally don't have the chest initially up and aren't seen in the treasure compasses now, but in 5.2 you'll be able to see the new way of these different these chests as well. They'll be able to bring you to the Sealy or to the time trials to then do them, to then get the rewards afterwards. So that's at least a nice little jump there. Also, a quick side note is that the quick swap feature will happen with your treasure compasses and your Oculus resonance stones, the ways to find treasure chests in certain regions, and the ways to find oculi in certain regions. As soon as you jump into a new region, your bag will basically auto switch, and you can turn that on and off. It'll initially immediately quick swap if you have them made. It'll switch to the leeway versions of an Oculus resonance stone, or vice versa, or whatever, with any other region, as well as the treasure compasses as well. So kind of something nice that we get to see there for sure, though.
One of the next things we do see here in some optimizations is regarding some artifacts. The Autolock feature is now upgraded, and we can handle everything with just a single click. And I did look at this a little bit earlier, and so some of this seems pretty interesting. It says to make it easier for you to manage large quantities of artifacts and to make it simpler to understand and use the Autolock feature, the feature has been optimized. Starting from version 5.2, you can use the recommended lock plan, and once enabled, you don't need to do anything yourself. The system will auto-lock any artifacts that meet the requirement. So this is pretty cool. You can see here in the picture, automatically lock 5-star artifacts, meeting the requirements, and you can just toggle it on or off. So if you don't want to use this, you've been playing for a long time, you just prefer to just, manually look at your artifacts every time you get them because that's your habit. You've been doing it for almost 4 years at this point, right? Then you can do that, which I don't know, maybe I'll stay that way, but I am curious to try this thing out because it does seem pretty cool. You can see here, you can lock, if it has crit rate and crit damage, it will automatically lock the artifact if it has those substats. You can, with the goblet, just make it automatically lock if it's any elemental damage bonus or physical damage bonus, which maybe can kind of be nice. But me personally, I maybe want to have the option if there was at least one of the crit rate or crit damage, or one of the good stats, maybe energy recharge, I don't know, something like that. But at least you can do it and kind of just let the things go on autopilot as you are farming, and then come back, and when you sort by your pyro goblets, just take a look at all of them, and then you can just re-unlock stuff that's just fodder, and when you're actually building a character, instead of just looking at your pieces after every single run, which once again, I think veteran players are still maybe going to prefer that, depending on the person. I think I myself might still prefer to do that. I don't know about you, Vixen. And I feel like some people may actually like this. So either way, it's an optimization, and it's a good optimization. So I think this is pretty cool.
I think the biggest thing that this is going to help out with is what we saw in Natlan was getting 5-star artifacts from the special places that you can get, finding those special areas when you get the special resin or whatever. You can get the sanctifying resin. You can also get the 5-star artifacts in these special areas. So I think that getting those in the open world as well sometimes is also helpful, because not always do you have the ability to pop it up and immediately show what you just got, because normally when you do a domain run or you do a boss fight, you can immediately check the artifact and its stats, but when you get it in the open world, you can't check its stats immediately. So I think that's majorly what this is going to help with for those veterans. And like you said, normal artifact grinding and boss fights and whatever, people will probably just check the artifact as it pops up because it's pretty easy to just initially do so.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point you make. So yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. And then also a little bit beyond that, we have the Artifact Astral Mark feature, which is now available as well, meaning that you can immediately pop this up just like what you do with your favorited characters. It brings them to the top of the list of your characters no matter what. Usually, actually, I use this, and I believe Rift you do as well. Whenever we're done building a character, we just put the star on the character just so that it's kind of like a way for us to know that we've finished them. It also is nice to have all the characters that you have built put at the top so that you can kind of list the few ones that you want to use in rotations and whatnot. You don't want to use an unbuilt character, obviously. And then also, but with the specifically the marked artifacts, with this being able to do so, they with the marked artifacts you can automatically lock them and give the priority display when you have them. So you can see here that these two have the star on them, and most likely they were probably, if they are already locked, they'll stay locked. If they weren't locked and you hit the star, it'll automatically lock them and put them in a priority slot. So you can see there is another already locked artifact piece, but because these two ones have stars on them, they immediately get pushed to the front over the regular and the locked versions. Locked versions already have like an initial way. I think something that this could be good for is, this piece might be really good. Let's say this flower is pretty good, but maybe a character right now might not use it, but you're thinking maybe a future character could use it. Maybe it's a set that isn't really used by too many people, but it's got like double crit on it or something like that, and you want to keep it, and it's a good artifact, but you don't really know who it can be used on. That's probably what I'll use in the future for the locked versions of my artifacts. And the things that are starred, I'll probably keep that as an idea of like, okay, I know these pieces can go on characters, so I'm immediately going to bring them to the top, as well as they're going to be starred, so it gives that extra little like, reference to go to these specific pieces.
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of what I was thinking I'm going to do with this. Because I already used the locking feature as kind of I'm just going to hang on to this, even if it's not being used for anyone. I have plenty of level 0 artifacts, and I'm sure I'm not alone on this. I think most players actually do this, where they'll just lock the artifact if it has good stats. You never know if you're going to use it. Like you said, Vixen, for future characters. So I think the idea here, like what I'm going to do, kind of like you're saying, is actually star the artifacts that are leveled, and I use them on characters and whatnot. So, I just don't. It's like another level or adding another layer or category for being able to organize your artifacts just at a glance. Like now we have a third kind of quote category. We can look at our artifacts at a glance and know, okay, I starred this, so I know it's actually for someone, or it's leveled for use on this character. Maybe it's a quick swap with this character or something like that. Whereas just the lock now, we can see that as, well, this may not be set in stone for a specific build I have on a specific character right now, but I'm holding on to it right now because it's really pretty good, and I may end up using it, and then the fodder just stays unlocked. So you can just throw it into where strong box, use it as leveling, or even throw into the sanctifying resin thingy.
Something else we have that's a little bit different, now going into a little bit of a different direction when looking at weapons, it states here that in order to make it more convenient for you to check the weapons on basically already the weapons that you already have when obtaining new weapons, weapon amount, level, and refinement rank information will now be displayed on the forging shop and battle pass pages. So whenever you go to forge a specific weapon, it'll let you know that you already have the weapon, as well as stated here, if you look at, let's say, the battle pass, and you use the battle pass and you get the weapons from the battle pass, you can choose which one you want. But I've had it happen plenty of times that I'm like, wait a minute, how many of each weapon do I have? Which one should I grab? Is there one that I really want to get to a higher refinement that I'm in the middle of? So I have to exit out of this screen, go look at my weapons, check which one is on which character. It's not really that difficult. It's just more or less time consuming. So this is just a little bit of, once again, quality of life, makes things quicker, makes things easier. Little changes that they've done.
For sure.
And
yeah, I've had the same issue with it where like when I get I'm level 30 in the battle pass, now I get to choose a weapon. Wait, what do I have? Like, what refinement should I go after right now? So same story, and I'm sure a lot of people probably relate to that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because every single time I start the battle pass, I'm like, okay, I want to get my next deathmatch to R5. I'm at R3. I'm gonna get a deathmatch. And then 2 weeks later, I get to level 30, and I'm like, what did I say I was going to do again? And I'm just like sitting there trying to contemplate it, and I'm jumping back to pages, and it's just more of a hassle. Well, the next thing we have is looking at the Serenity Pot. Just some quick changes really here, which is just like you can purchase wood from the Realm Depot. So if you've already obtained it from the Realm Depot and the Serenity Pot, if you've already obtained it, then you can go get more wood. This is just kind of more or less for the people who really like to build in the Serenity Pot, because that's really all the wood is really used for in the game right now. But the big thing that everybody's probably going to want to talk about Rift here is probably what everybody's here for, is the changes in certain elemental reactions, which we've already made a video on Rift. So what are your thoughts?
I think this is what everyone is most excited about among the other things. But based on continued observations of different elemental reactions in combat, adjustments will be made to allow a wider variety of characters and lineups to shine. Starting from version 5.2, the base damage of the overloaded, superconduct, electrocharged, and shatter reactions will be increased. These adjustments have already been implemented on the version 5.2 test server, and we will continue to observe the results to ensure the quality of your combat experience. So yeah, this is very, very interesting. And it is exciting because I'm wondering just how much of a base damage increase is it going to be? Because if it's not enough, I don't think that's going to like change how we use some team. Maybe a few, because certain characters might just be able to work with it a little bit better. We already have and use overloaded teams just because of Chevrolet. She ultimately kind of made that more of a viable option that we actually look specifically, to use in endgame content. So that's just getting a buff. I mean, it's going to be like a little bit of extra damage on the side just because the reaction itself is now going to be dealing a little bit more damage. I mean, Superconduct is only really coming into play when you're doing a physical team. So if it's just a base damage increase to the Superconduct reaction, that's not inherently buffing physical damage type of teams a lot. Now, it's a damage increase because the reaction itself is getting buffed. We just don't really know how much yet. If it's a big increase, that might change things. Maybe a Eula team can actually become a little bit more competitive with some maybe more A tier options that we have right now, or maybe even better. It just depends on how much that buff is, because Eula is a good character. It's not her fault. It's kind of like Cryo is in, I feel like, the same spot. It's not really the character's fault. It's just physical. It's just not the way to go based on what you need for what we get thrown in with the Abyss. It's the kinds of content that is thrown at us doesn't really call for physical, or, it's just calling for all these other things because the game is a reaction-based game. So physical tends to just be at the bottom of the barrel every single time. And Cryo is just a different story. But we also, Electrocharge getting buff. Now, I think that one's interesting just because we are getting Auroron, who we kind of already know works specifically with that reaction. I mean, Chaska is coming around, so she's going to be able to work with this probably very well as well. And then also the shatter reaction. I think that's a reaction that not a lot of people think about, or we tend to forget about because it's not like a shown reaction by elements or something. This is basically when you hit a frozen opponent with a claymore, let's say, or I know Geo is involved with this. You can shatter like after the Zhongli burst. That's another instance of that. So it's kind of like a hidden reaction, but that'll be getting a damage increase as well, which could in turn end up also, once again, buffing maybe some kind of physical team, because I know some physical teams can work with that if you do like a Superconduct type of team and just throw like one Geo character in there like Zhongli, and you actually start to get some shatters in there if you're freezing, if there's a Hydro character in there. So there's a lot of different ways you can go. I don't think it's going to, make them super viable options for end game and stuff like that, but it will bring them up a little bit. Maybe it's the start of something new, and who knows, maybe, going even more into the future, we'll see even more buffs to physical and maybe Superconduct specifically.
Yeah, I think overall, like you said, in maybe less words, it's just damage increase. It's just going to help the overall team do a little bit more damage. That's really all it's going to do. Electrocharge is the only one that might get a buff, like you were talking about, because of Auron, but besides that, there's no real craziness to be happened here. Let's look a little bit further at the Imaginarium Theater. It's stating that it's going to get an increase to the blessing level buffs for special guest stars. So starting from version 5.2, the blessing level buff effects received by special guest stars are increased by 100%. So you'll get to see that here. Basically, you'll get some extra buffs just based on the characters that you put in the special guest lineup or that are there in the special guest lineup. Also, new character and boss tags are added to the performance prep stage. Deciding which characters to add to your party is undoubtedly a huge consideration when preparing for combat, especially in the Imaginarium Theater. In order to allow you to make these decisions more intuitively and comprehensively, we've made a number of optimizations to the performance prep page, which is basically when you're about to attack the enemy and take them out. After the new version update, which is going to be 5.2, characters can be sorted according to their elemental types, whether they're most likely on field or off field, and whether they're DPS oriented, support oriented, or survival type characters. So as you can see here, sustain is that idea, usually character shielders and healers. So as you see here, they have the off-field kind of hit initially, and you've got characters like Bennett, Xiangling, Emily, and Nahida, whereas your on-field DPS type oriented on-field characters like Raiden, Kanish, Alhaitham, Diluc, Hu Tao, and Arlecchino are all unselected. So it just gives you a better idea to show, okay, these are the characters that you have, and here are the ones that are going to be more suited for this and more suited for that. Just to maybe help with the idea of what you're going to be fighting. The number of characters in each category will also be displayed in the selected characters area. So basically you can see here, you have 2 Pyro characters, 3 Electro characters with Raiden and Dori and Yamiko, 3 Dendro characters already here with these 3, and then you have some extra slots as well. It looks like, if we're talking about up here, you've got 4 on-field characters and you've got 4 off-field characters. Once again, just allowing you to show you what maybe the next character that you choose when you put in your cast. Maybe you're like, okay, I have 3 on-field characters, but I have 7 off-field. Okay, I need another DPS. I need another character on-field so I can make a little bit of a better decision for my future runs. They will also be displayed when drawing character cards as well. And this is basically select an alternate cast member, 8 principal cast members remaining. You have 3 Pyro characters here, 2 are Electro and 2 are Dendro. Choose which ones that you actually need for the run. The third thing is at the same time, you can click on a boss's avatar to view their information and see which character possessed a tactical advantage against them. If you look up here, it's a little bit small, but it says that Usia aligned attacks have an advantage against the Icewind Suite, specifically probably looking at which one that is going to be. And then Pyro characters have an advantage as well, most likely because of the Cryo Shield that's probably being thrown up here. So you're seeing how there's a little bit of changes to the Imaginarium Theater, hopefully making it a little bit easier to make those decisions, maybe for people who aren't so heavy into looking at everything and maybe just want to get the run over with, but don't also want to, die easily or have to redo the run over and over again because they have to switch characters around. So this might just help a little bit more for those specific characters. There's also a little bit of a further feature rift if you want to go ahead and talk about this next as well.
Yeah, I think, like you said, for people who already know what they're doing, this is just a nice speed up kind of quality of life to just kind of get through it, get it done, claim their Primogen rewards, and be done with it. So I really like the looks of this, and I can't wait to kind of play around with it. It's just really nice optimization. But also we see here with new supporting cast record features starting in December, you'll be able to view a record of the characters your friends have borrowed on the supporting cast page. So, previously, I don't think we've been able to see that. Like, I can't go in game, Vixen, and see who you've used of my characters. I can just see oh, you have someone used my characters. I have no idea who used them and what characters were used. This will kind of, at least I'm guessing, show you who used your characters and which characters they did choose, so you can kind of get an idea of, okay, which characters are people actually using on my account that I put in my supporting cast. So I actually kind of like that a lot, and so I think that's pretty good. We also see here, just kind of at the end here, in response to some feedback regarding completing all the acts in one go for story, starting from version 5.2, after completing at least 3 acts as well as your dialogue with Wolfie, you can press the next act button on the finalization screen after each successful performance to continue your challenge. Now, I will say I like this a lot because when I am going through the theater, to be thrown out of the theater just to go back in to get to the next stage, and the next act is what it's talking about here, is kind of like, okay, why did it throw me out? I want to do all of this in one sitting. Why do I need to be thrown out? So this is a nice little thing, and it makes sense that they were getting feedback regarding that. So that'll be a nice quality of life update for that as well.
Well, that's everything we've got talking about the developers discussion in this video. If you guys have any other questions, any other ideas, go ahead and let us know down in the comments. Let us know what you guys are most excited for. Are you guys more excited for the Imaginarium stuff, the Imaginarium Theater stuff? You're waiting for the teapot possibly. Probably the biggest thing is going to be the increase for elemental reaction damage to kind of see what there is going to be there, and just a whole bunch of quality of life stuff we're seeing in artifacts, as well as a little bit in weapons as well. So I think there's a lot of good stuff here, a lot of good quality of life things that we're getting to see. So let us know what you guys most enjoyed or are looking forward to in the 5.2 version. That's everything we've got in this video. So thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.